Welcome to Covers' Blitz Show. I'm your host, Josh Inglis, betting analyst, Covers.com, joined by the man himself, Derek Carty, whose projections and models are the best in the business and have been filling the pockets of people who have been following him, myself included. We're looking at every NFL primetime game and searching for the best plays versus Derek's projections and digging in how we expect this game to unfold. Today, we are looking at this very convenient Monday night football game for the NFL between Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos versus Pete Carroll's stubborn play calling and the projected 6-win Seattle Seahawks. And this is kind of going with what we were looking at in the Dallas game earlier, with the Seahawks looking at a near TD home dog and projecting to be awful defensively again this season with a poor O-line. Does this give us a little more value in the projections to this Seattle passing offense that will probably be chasing points all game?
Yeah, it kind of does. And obviously, the Seattle passing offense this year looks kind of gross. Pete Carroll's going to want to run the ball. We have Geno Smith as the quarterback. But he still has Lockett. He still has Metcalf. He has Noah Fant. Like, there are guys that Geno Smith can throw to here. And they are going to, at some point in this game, most likely, be forced to throw as almost a full touchdown underdog here against the Broncos. So
if there was one game that Pete Carroll would come out of his shell and allow his quarterback just to throw 45 passes, it's probably a losing recipe. But wouldn't it be funny if it was Geno Smith versus Russell Wilson?
It would be very funny. I would love to see that, especially because it does look like there is a bit of value on Geno Smith's props here.
Okay.
Kind of.
Sorry, specifically the over 1.5 touchdowns at plus 190 and the over 2.5 passing yards, which are just a lean here on this, but they are projecting value.
Yeah, so the Blitz is projecting about 1.4 touchdowns for Geno Smith, so it's not like it's projecting him straight up to get over this, but at plus 190, you know, the implied total there is basically one touchdown, and we're projecting close to 1.5. So there's a bit of value here on Geno Smith's touchdowns. The Blitz is projecting 244, 245 passing yards. So, 40 yards over the passing yard prop. It's not massive, but it's there. And I do think there's a bit of value on it.
Here are some Geno Smith tidbits for you, Derek. 68% of his passes last year, pretty good number. 4.2 air yards per attempt, which was higher than Aaron Rodgers. 7.4 yards per attempt, same as Tom Brady. I think this is something that, and you see it obviously when you're comparing these odds, when the public perception on a person is so low, that's almost a cue to start digging into those markets because that's where the value is really hidden.
Yeah, like I think the perception of Geno Smith is that he's awful. And he's
not
probably
great.
No, he's not, but he's probably a capable bottom tier starting quarterback as opposed to like a guy who has no business starting a game, which I think is what most people think of him.
Yeah, I think he finished 27th or 26th in EPA per pass last year. Another interesting thing that could also be pushing Pete Carroll to, I don't know, maybe not run as much with his bad offensive line that projects to be the worst in football. Rookie running back Ken Walker, very doubtful for Monday, which is big because Rashad Penny, as we know, is the early down back, but then he just has DJ Dallas and Travis Homer are more the pass catching backs. Right. So it might be a personnel thing Monday night where Pete Carroll is forced actually to play a little more. And with obviously Geno chucking it up, just like we did with our Dallas play, there's obviously a correlation here with Tyler Lockett. And you see Tyler Lockett having the better chance to hit his overs. I think he's about 8 yards shyer than not sure if that's a word, 8 yards shy of DK Metcalf's total. But he might be projecting the same or even better in this matchup.
Yeah, the Blitz is projecting about 64 yards for him here. So, again, not a massive difference between that and the line, but about 15 yards, which is not nothing. There's a little bit of value there. And like we said, it's kind of gross betting on Seattle here, but there are a lot of reasons to expect them to potentially throw the ball a little bit here. And Geno to not be as bad as people think he is.
Yep. Lockett, strangely, number 12 receiver PFF last year, ran about half of his snaps in the slot. So that versatility really helps when you're facing a strong secondary in Denver. Kawan Williams ranked 70 in coverage last year per PFF, 80% completion rate. So if Metcalf's there if Lockett's there in the slot, he could be facing him in man coverage. And I mean, 30% target share. I know your target share is one of the massive, is it maybe one of your biggest indicators when it comes to receiver props in projections?
Yeah, target shares are important. Tyler, like everyone knows DK Metcalf is great, and I feel like everyone loves DK Metcalf, and Lockett is like an afterthought to DK Metcalf. But Lockett is a really good receiver in his own right, and his target share last year was not that much far off of Metcalf's.
Yeah, 30% target share in the 3 games that Geno Smith started. 12 of Smith's 19 completions in his last game versus Jacksonville went Lockett's way. So there's obviously a better bond there, and we're getting the shorter number, which is pretty impressive. Might be putting you on the spot here. Something might be going off script. Do you see anything on the Denver side, or is it just going to be the game script could just be so odd? Russell Wilson, they could let him pass more. They're probably going to be playing with the lead. The Javonte Williams ish, we all know that Javonte Williams is the better runner between him and Melvin Gordon, but he's always handicapped slightly by that timeshare. Do you see anything else there, especially versus this awful Seattle defense? Bobby Wagner's gone, which is a huge blow to them too.
Yeah, almost literally nothing. There's only one prop on the Denver side that doesn't project for negative expected value, and it's Russell Wilson's rushing yards. It projects 3 yards above the line, and it projects for just this much value. I wouldn't even touch it. There's nothing on the Denver side.
Interesting. So that's it. So we saw the 2 leans on Geno Smith's over 1.5 touchdowns plus 190, over 2.5 passing yards in a game that should see negative game script for probably 3 full quarters for Seattle. And then Tyler Lockett, obviously, to correlate that to over 47.5 receiving yards, 8 fewer than DK Metcalf, but you project him to have probably the higher target share, obviously the bigger opportunity.
Yep. That's where I see if there's going to be any value from this game, it's going to be on those guys.
And not a lot from the Denver side, who obviously come in as 6.5 road favorites. And like we've always say, you have to probably look at the losing side sometimes, look at the guys who have the poor public perception to find the value. And that's not here with Denver, obviously.
No, it is not.
All right. So that will wrap us up for week 1. 2 leans in those plays. Hope everybody's tuning in. Enjoy it. Let us know in the comments. Hit the like, subscribe button. We'll see you back here for next Thursday Night Football, week 2.